we now want to see how we can dynamically display this content, the current project's content. So basically, as part of your practice, you can check on how you can extend and work on About Us page, the services page, pricing, and all other pages. At least for the scope of this video, it's enough that we covered home, and we have also illustrated how you can extend the index HTML to contact us page. As part of your practice, just do a practice on other pages, and you can give a comment below so that we know how easy it was or whatever challenges you are facing. So I want us to check on models. So for us to design a database, we need to know exactly what we want to achieve and how to use that information. So for instance, in our case, I want us to design a table, a database table that will store an image, that will store a project name, and that will also store some information about that project. After we are done with that, we need to upload the projects and have them being displayed in this section. So let's come to our Visual Studio Code editor. Then under home, we go to models. So in models, we need to have a class. We also need to have we give our class a name. We have it as projects. We also need to inherit a class from models that have already been installed, rather have been imported here. Dot model. Then what we are going to do, we are going to define the fields. The first one is name of the project. Models dot char field. So basically the name takes the data type char field because it takes a few characters, and in the form defined to correct this data takes one line. We are going to see whatever field we are going to use for data that takes multiple lines. So here we need to define the maximum length. Let's talk about 20. Then the other field is we have the name, we have info. Let's just call it as info. We have models dot. Let's check on what field to use. It's called text. Let's text field. So what happens with text field? It gives you a wider view. For instance, we can take an example of contact us page. This is the char field, just taking one single line and has a limited number of characters. But then for the text field, takes a wider view where you can enter text in multiple lines and all that. So let's come back here. So we don't need to define the maximum length for that. Then the other thing we need to define is let's see, we also need to define the image models dot image field. Then we also need to define upload to the upload to folder. We need to upload to a folder called uploads. Then it's also important to add some more information, even if it's not to be included here, information such as date. So we can have models dot date time field. Then we can have the system autofill this date without us having to edit it manually. So we have an option called auto now add, then set it to true. This one will automatically add a date. Immediately we save a record. So that's it for the project, or rather for the database definition. We can also define it, but we'll see that later. We'll come back and edit it as needed. So what we need to do, we need to do a migration. We need to do a migration of this so that we can have this data being mapped to, rather this table being mapped to our database. So let's open a terminal, and we have Python manage.py make migrations. Right, so we are being told for us to use an image field, we need to install, we need to ensure that Piro is installed. So let's navigate back here, so that I want us to install it on our virtual environment. Pip install Piro. So Piro is responsible for handling images. Once it's installed, let's run the development server again. Let's come back here and make the migrations. That we are told that migration has happened. So what we need to do, let's migrate. After migrating, all the tables are mapped to our database, and we now want to see where and how to add new projects. So for us to achieve that, we need to create a super user. A super user is the admin who will be managing other administrators and other users. So we need to run this command, python manage.py create super user. So I want to use that as the username. If you want a different domain, rather a different username, have it there. Then for the email, I'll leave that as blank. Then for the password, I'll enter a simple password, and I want to bypass that for your case, especially for production applications. Ensure to use a strong password. Right, I have created a super user for my project. So what I need to do, I need to access the admin dashboard. So basically, if we come back here, remember that we had this URL, the urls.py of our project, where we defined the admin URL. So this means that for us to access the admin, we just need to add a /admin after our domain name. So that opens this page. What we need to do, we need to input our username and the password and click on login, and there we go, we are logged in. So what we need to do at this point, we cannot see our table listed anywhere. So the good thing with Django, we did not define any code to get the admin interface, as opposed to other coding languages where you need to add the logic to define your admin dashboard. For Django, that has been taken care of you, so that you can only focus on the areas that matters to you. So let's see how to make our tables appear here. So back to Visual Studio Code. So what we need to do, I had promised that we are going to make use of this admin.py. So we need to import from all models. Let us import projects. So after importing the project, we need to tell this project to appear in this section. So we just write a command and it will automatically appear. So admin.site, we want to register. Then we want to register projects. Let's save that. Then let's reload, and there we go. So we have the home application and we got the project. So what we need to do, let's click on that, and what we have here, we can add a new project. So click on that, name of the project, let's name it project 1, info. So the more information, let's have exactly what we have here. So for the file, I'm just going to select that. Let me select a file. Let me navigate to the desktop, Django tutorial, template, assets, images. I want to see if I'm able to select, let me see. All right, let me select this one. Once I do that, I click on save. Let me save and add another one. It has been so what we are seeing here, that they have been named using, let me just call them some funny names. So what we can instruct our application to have their names instead of what we have here. So let's come back here. Let's do that in the model section. Let's define str string. Then let's just modify this code. Let's do this. We wanted to return self.name. Let's load that, and there we go. We have instructed it to use our project's names. So the next thing will be to remove these static projects and have the dynamic projects that we added. So how do we do that? So the way to achieve that, we go back to our views. So here what we are going to do, we need to import our model. From all models, import projects. So since we want to have them in our home page, so we can have a project. Let's define that. So the command to fetch the data from our database of our project, so we have projects.objects.get.all. So this will fetch all the projects. After fetching all the projects, we need to pass them to our home page, and we are going to use the same name to pass them. So that is the syntax. That is the syntax used to pass data from our database to our template. So once we do that, even if we reload, we still have the static file. So we need first of all to delete this. After deleting this, we then pass the dynamic content that we just added. So let us scroll to the section where we have current projects. So we have them here. So the most important thing is to identify the div that holds a single project. So let's see that. So if we check closely, this seems to be the div holding the project. So what we need to do, we can remove all other divs. So let me show you something. There is a drop down here just adjacent to one of their divs. Click on that as well. Click on that to freeze them. Then you also have that. So here you can easily delete the 3 of them like that. So we want to check if there are some projects display them. If not, add a custom message. So let us talk of if else. So if projects, let me go back. So if project, I pass them as project. So let me come back here. If project do this, I want to display the project there. Else I can expand these and see. Okay, let me just make it simple. Else just do a paragraph saying no projects at the moment, and we cross that. Let's save. Let's see if there is any change. So basically it shows we have a project. Right. Okay, in this case we may not delete the project so that we see how it shows if there are no projects, but or rather let me just see if I can rename this variable to something else so that shows no projects. Alright, so if there are no projects, then this is how it shows. But since we have projects, so we just correct this name. If there are projects, then do something. So if there are projects, what we need to do, we need to loop on whatever project that we have. So let's do a for loop for project. So let me just do that for proj in projects, or rather for proj in project. Well, this wasn't the best variable to use, but let us just use that. We should be talking of projects, but it's okay. So if project, so for proj in project, then do something here. So that something is what we want to modify. So for instance, for the paragraph, so for project we have let me show you. We have proj dot, that should be, let me see in the models, that should be info. Let's reload and see if we get something. Right, we already have 3 projects. So for the naming, for the titles of the project, we have what we have proj dot name. Let's reload that, and there we go. We already named them proj 1, proj 2, proj 3, and all that. Then let's come to the image. We also have to render the image dynamically. So what we need to do, proj dot image. We named it image. I want us to note something here. So if I just use proj dot image, then save, then reload, we don't get images. So usually images, you have to add a URL. Save, then reload. We still don't get the images. Let us inspect and see if we are going to get an error. All right, we see that something is happening here. Something somewhere is happening. So let us see. So we have all right, so let's do this. So usually you may face this challenge, especially when uploading your projects. Either the images don't show up, or for instance, now that we have the static files working, you may later discover that once you put this website into production, the static files no longer work, or even the admin the admin dashboard doesn't have the styling. The other thing will be if images load, if you view that image on a new browser, just like we just did here, the images no longer shows up. So we are going to resolve that by adding some few lines of code. Let's navigate to this urls.py here. Let's add some lines of code here. And let us do this. Let us do that. Let us come back here and see if this one works as we expect. And there we go. If we also reload this, we get our image. So basically these few lines of code do the magic. So you can just see how they are and ensure that to capture them somewhere, because you might need to use them for all your projects, so that the static files, that is the image and the styling, works both in your local production and even the live production. So that's how to create a model and add projects. The best thing is that if you need to delete some of this project, you don't need to edit your front-end code. You just need to log in, click on one of the projects, then select the action, delete, then go, then confirm you are sure. That's the magic of using Django. You don't need to define all these crude operations. So we just deleted one of the projects. So that's simply how to work with the Django models, adding a project and working with static files and media files, so that they show up whenever they are needed to show up. That marks the end of this tutorial series. See you in the next upcoming video.